All right, welcome to Hands to Shoulders on January 16th here. So as usual, we'll have a bit of like self-care conversation and I'll show you some self-care toys and then we'll move into techniques. I forgot to ask this last time, so I'm gonna make sure to ask it this time. If you have questions or you really need to like say something because you'll forget if you don't say it, please write it in the chat box or write it on a piece of paper. Please try not to get my attention for questions or clarifications until I have the section for that after like every section we'll do. So after self-care stuff, I'll have like, does anybody have any questions or answers? And then maybe there will be a break and then we'll come back to techniques and then I might divide that up into smaller sections, but there will be at least one opportunity to ask questions or have clarifications. The last time I forgot to ask that, somebody did ask a question and it took me over a minute to get back on track. So for my neurodivergence and my focus, would be wonderful if you could help me with that by writing your stuff down or waiting until the designated time for that. Does anybody have any questions or any other things around that they would like to discuss before we start? Okay. So for self-care toys, there's a lot of different things that you can do for shoulder and arm pain. We will be talking more in depth about that really gnarly thing that happens. So typically, you wake up and you turn your head and you're like, ugh. I've experienced that more than a dozen times in my lifetime, having a hypermobility in my neck. And it's one of the reasons why I talk so much about sleep ergonomics and making sure that you have your head properly supported in all things that you do. And so specifically that is usually a problem with this muscle back here. It's called your levator scapula. And usually I'll feel like you like pinch your nerve. It goes in a spasm and then everything around it starts to tighten and stiffen up. It becomes very difficult to move your head. You'll try to move it and you'll be like stopped, right? And when you try to move in that direction, it's very painful and won't let you do it, right? The self-care protocol for that I've developed does rely on ice if you can tolerate ice or if you want to use ice. I do talk about using ice a lot, but it's up to your personal preference. For things lower in the limbs, when we talk about using ice for inflammation control or as an analgesic, which it's pretty good as an analgesic, that may not be appropriate if you have something like Raynaud's. So if you've been told that you have leaky blood vessels or Raynaud's, then you wouldn't, it's not advisable to use ice below the shoulder or in your legs or feet. So I want to talk more about that sort of pinched nerve sensation, since that tends to be like a major um, problem with the neck and shoulders. And the reason why it's in the shoulders class and not the neck class is that it specifically has to do with the brachial plexus, because at that point we're in the lower cervical vertebrae as opposed to upper cervical vertebrae. So the last two classes, when we focused on the whole headache migraine protocol, that was all upper cervical and cranial nerves. So everything at like C3 down through here is your brachial plexus, which is a bundle of nerves, and there are multiple points for entrapment for that. Now, specifically for this particular muscle area that gets caught up in something, either you slept wrong or you had your head in a bad position for a while, that it could be a combination of muscle strain and something that's happening at the nerve root in the neck. So we don't really consider that a nerve entrapment per se, but that local irritation, inflammation that happens in the neck definitely can cause multiple muscles and even further down to feel pain or be in spasm or stiffen. So the particular way that I like to deal with that is, again, I would go for ice. I use an ice gel pack. I don't use actual ice because I'm sensitive to the cold and the cold can cause me pain. Other people with Raynaud's or EDS might relate to this, but I don't use heavy duty ice anymore. And I always wrap my ice gel pack in a towel to protect my skin. And that also helps reduce the amount of discomfort if I'm going to have any. But I typically would put it right here. And I would, my preference is to numb it up really good and then go into positional releases and gentle movement exercises. So we'll talk about positional releases for this a little bit later. But essentially, that is a way to passively move your body to encourage the nerves to stop feeling threatened and for the muscles to relax. It might seem counterintuitive, but putting yourself into the position that it wants to go into when it's in spasm can be better than trying to stretch your way out of it. And in fact, it's been my personal and professional experience that trying to stretch out of that or trying to move and push through the pain or push through that stiffness doesn't have much. I mean, it's not very effective. So once that's numbed up and you've done the positional releases, then you can go into the slack techniques. Now, slack techniques are essentially like the ones we did in the last few classes where we contacted our skin and put slack on it while keeping the anatomy of the nerves and the muscles in mind. Those slack techniques are also something that we will be using to the entire arm, especially at the main entrapment points. So there are several points that your brachial plexus can get entrapped or irritated. And those areas are here, here, through here, and here. And those would be known conditions for those kinds of things would be things like carpal tunnel, thoracic outlet syndrome, cubital fossa syndrome, radial nerve entrapment, which radial nerve can also be closed down through here. Radial nerve comes through here. So this is the armpit's going to be a space where we're going to learn a couple things too as well. Now, self-care toys. When you've got that like stiff neck problem, and it usually takes a few days to resolve itself. That's just how it works. It sucks. I've never ever had that resolve in 24 hours. It's always been a multiple day thing for me. Your mileage may vary. But aside from the gel packs that go over your shoulders like a mini cape that you can use to numb things up and calm down the area, when you're ready to, and usually I would do this the second or third day after the acute pain, and you're no longer, every time you try to move, when it's like no longer in spasm, but it's starting to stiffen up and feels like it's getting hard, that's when I typically would move to heat. And you can do that with a couple of different items. I got this at Fred Meyer a long time ago. This is just an example of something. You put it in the microwave, and then you would put it on your shoulders like this for some moist, deep heat. I really like these rice clay packs. Most of them, they'll come with herbs in them though. I don't really smell them. These are older. I don't remember if they were more smelling when I got them, so keep that in mind. This one is not only great for the low back, but it's got some weight to it, so it's comforting. And it's double-sided. This is from Body Sense. They're a local Seattle company. And I think you can find people that also make these on Etsy. But this side gives more intense heat, and this side gives more of like a less intense heat. But it's still moist heat regardless. It has rice and clay beads in it. And I would take this. I would never put this on my skin by itself though. I would have this through clothing or a towel. This one I would have skin contact with because it's more of a cloth insulated side. You could actually burn yourself on this side if you have skin to skin contact, if you don't follow the microwave instructions, which will be on the products that you buy. But essentially, I would take this, I'd have a microwave, I'd shake it up to distribute the heat and kind of get it ready. And then I would throw onto my shoulder and sit down and rest with it. I do not find heating pads effective for this. I find deep, moist heat with a clay rice pack to be the most effective way to get heat treatment into something that is that stiff and irritated. Okay, so the rest of the self-care toys, I've got a couple to show and then I'll talk about the rest. These were in, I think I showed these once before for the neck, for releasing up here, because you can like lay on it if you want to, up at the suboccipitals. But these are also great for the arms. So a way that you would use these are called spiky balls or fascial balls, but the way that you would use these is you would come down and roll on it. And that gives kind of like a more traditional massage feeling. It can feel kind of intense. You don't have to use these, but some people like them for sensory reasons and find them useful. I might even do this on my palm. I don't personally use these anymore, but they are helpful. The ones that have more spikes and that are bigger are going to be nicer feeling than the ones that are smaller and have fewer spikes. That's just the way that it works. They can be intense. I've also used these for the feet in the past. Like I've like stepped on it with my foot and I've lit it, kind of release the tension in the bottom of my foot. So if you're looking for some intensity that is safe, these can be a tool. I've also used these for dissociation. So if I'm starting to kind of dissociate out of my body, I might also do that as well. But for a lot of the types of aches and pains that I personally experience, I don't find these that useful, but everybody's different. So I wanted to mention them. Other self-care toys that people use are things like a Theragun or a massage gun. I have one picked out that's smaller and kind of portable, just to give you an idea of what's out there. That'll go in the after class summary with all the links that I post. But those are percussion or vibrational instruments. So there's usually two main kinds. One is vibrational, and one that is percussion based. If you have Raynaud's, leaky blood vessels, um, the vibrational and percussion based power tool like massage things might be contraindicated for you. My rheumatologist told me to stop using vibrational massage tools, and that's why I don't have a massage gun that I use in the clinic anymore. Um, when we have a lot of like this going on with the tool, it can actually cause our blood vessels to dilate, and then it can actually increase swelling. So if that's a concern or consideration, there are other ways to do the self-care that don't rely on a power tool like massager. But the two that I liked and used the most before my diagnosis was the Pure Wave massager that had multiple different heads on it, including one that you could use with lotion. And it had a nice, sleek, almost whale-like design. It was lightweight and ergonomic. I think that was one of the things I really liked about that one, is that it was very effective, but it was also very lightweight. Then there's also the Ache Away massage gun. And Ache Away is a great company, although I would only use their massage gun. That had some weight to it. And so if your wrists are weak or your hands fatigue really quickly, those types of massage guns are not going to be a good long-term investment for you for your self-care. And then there are other things too that we can use. So there are topicals that we can use, like arnica, MSM lotion, so methyl sulfonylmethane. This is something I've been learning about more about recently. Usually use it as a powder supplement in water. It's a sulfur-based compound, but they use it to treat nerve pain and arthritis. And depending on other things that you have going on, it could be very supportive for your bones and joints, especially if you have any methylation problems, if you're dealing with an interruption in how your body absorbs or processes sulfur. They have those creams available actually in my full script dispensary. I looked at them today. I saw the products, so I thought that was pretty cool. Other things that can help with pain that are topical, as you probably know, are cannabis products. Not all products are created equal. Not all products are going to keep you from being high. So, like, one of the anxieties I hear often is, oh, if I use a cannabis topical, it's going to make me high, or it's going to show up on a drug test. A cannabis topical will either be just topical or it'll be transdermal, and the cannabis industry does not make that clear. They can label their stuff as transdermal and it has hardly any effect on you, and that could be due to your unique situation. And then they have things that they say will get you high and are not transdermal and are marketed for people that just want a localized experience versus a systemic experience. And what we'll find is that the product acts as transdermal, especially if you have a collagen disorder. So if you have a problem with your collagen genetics, like collagen alpha 12, or sorry, collagen 12 alpha 1 or collagen 1 alpha 1, that can change how your body is absorbing and retains these things in your skin, like how well it travels into your bloodstream. So if you have a diagnosis of EDS, cannabis topicals may or may not be helpful for you. The cannabis topicals that I have tried that I feel work, and I'm one of those people where most things will be transdermal for me to some extent, It's not like too terrible or anything, but I'm extremely sensitive. And keep in mind that if you have mast cell activation syndrome or you have a histamine intolerance, that you may also react to cannabis products depending on the other ingredients they put into it. So always read your labels appropriately. But the top cannabis products that I have tried over many years and that I feel work, Dragon Balm, though it's smelly. Dragon Balm is what it sounds like. It's like a knockoff of Tiger Balm, and they make it in different strengths. Like a 1-to-1. They have one, I think there's just THC as well. Salvation by Verilux is a local Seattle company. And I actually like that one a lot. It has tea tree and eucalyptus oil in it, so keep that in mind. It's another smelly one. They do not make an unscented one. I don't know why, but they don't. And I have found that to be very helpful. I've put that on my ankle pain where I have arthritis starting. If I do that on a regular basis, it does calm down some of my pain. I have gotten high from it in the past. I don't know under what circumstances why that happened, but if I just make sure that I do not use very much, then I will not have that experience. And because it has tea tree oil and cannabis in it, it's also been useful for itchy skin. So if you have skin symptoms from histamine intolerance, I found personally that the Salvation cream actually will reduce some of that. So if you just want something on hand for a little bit of itchiness, but you don't have hydrocortisone cream available, you don't want to use hydrocortisone cream, I think Salvation is a good product for that. I think its pain relieving properties are good. I wouldn't say that you should use it when you're like, oh shit, I'm in so much spasm, I can't move my neck, I can't move my shoulder. I would not use cannabis creams for that at all until you've gotten through the first couple of days of trying to manually deal with it, with the ice, heat, positional releases, just because it's just not that effective for what you need it to do, which is really like numb it up so that you can work out mechanically what's going on. And then I used to use this. It is transdermal on me. I think they might even say it is. I don't remember, but it's called Flow Gel, and they make it with CBD oil. It was highly effective, but it definitely would give me a CBD high. A little bit of that stuff goes a long way. It's kind of expensive, but Flow Gel is another local Seattle company. It's pretty good. And then you have over-the-counter cannabis products from places like Clinical CBD and Solstice. I don't find those particularly effective. So if you want to buy something not in a dispensary, make sure you research the company really well. And then going back to Arnica, a lot of people like Arnica, but you may or may not find it applicable in your situation. It may or not actually be indicated for you. And a word of caution about Arnica. Actually, my mentor did this and he told me this story. And I've heard similar stories in massage school. When you use Arnica lotion all the time in large areas of your body, you can cause a paradoxical effect where you can cause yourself to have a fever. And it is possible to overuse Arnica. So rotating through your topicals, especially if you're somebody who's sensitive, who readily absorbs things, when we're talking about topical pain relief, I think that that's really important to pay attention to, like how much and how often you're using something like Arnica, just like you would if you were taking an over-the-counter anti-inflammatory. It is possible to use it too much. Okay, so then the last thing for self-care stuff is for the upper back and shoulders. Chirp Wheels is my go-to. And this is for like the neck and upper back. And this is for a, a tighter stretch. It's got 4-way stretch. It's got a groove in it for your spine. And that can be helpful for just encouraging the natural curvature of your spine and as well as decompressing your spine. You would use the two smaller ones here for getting into the rhomboids, like the area between your shoulder blades, more deeply. And I would not recommend going straight to these. I would recommend doing a progression. And so that progression looks like this, where you have the big one that you would do a couple rolls with, and then you would move to the smaller one, the smaller one, the smaller one. And that's just to ease your body into it so that you can get the most benefit from rolling out your back like that. It won't, sorry, tile floor. It won't be as effective if you do it really fast. You want to ease into it. And if you have any kind of cervical instability or any kind of ligament laxity, these may not be appropriate for you. When I use them, I support my head on the wheel and I bend back on it. So you can play around with those. I like Chirp wheels because they're sturdy. It's a cute company and they've got that groove in for your spine. So it's not like a foam roller where like you're rolling on the foam roller and the foam roller is rolling against the bones of your spine. That's not a great feeling. And I also find that the Chirp wheels are much more effective at getting the muscles in my back versus a foam roller, which I have used the Half Moon foam roller to lay on to sort of like do like a stretchy thing with my shoulder. And I hardly ever use these. So I have this one, I have another one in the other room. I don't touch these anymore. I don't like them. I find the Chirp wheels are superior to these, but you do what you like. And you'll get links to all of that in the email I'll send after the class. Do we have any questions or anything? I'm gonna look at the chat. They're solid. I do have some that are empty actually inside. And those ones I don't even use. Oh, here's the one that I was talking about that has like the fewest bumps. These are solid. They don't have any flex to them. That's why they're so intense. These are not necessarily gentle tools and you should use them mindfully. But these ones, this I got as part of a self-massage system that used balls and they just have air inside. Basically, you're supposed to be able to take these, the ones that are hollow inside. You're supposed to be able to take these and like roll on them or lay on them. And it's supposed to like put pressure and help release muscles like that. I don't like these, and so I don't use them. I got them to try them, but I do not find them helpful at all. I mean, maybe if I wanted to like push my hip into it, maybe, but if I really wanted to do that, I would use something that I feel is more effective for that, like this. And even then, I would much prefer to do my slack techniques in positional releases over pushing into my tissue and potentially causing localized irritation. Any other questions about self-care toys or self-care in general stuff before we take a quick break and we go into the actual massage techniques and like nerve stuff. Okay. I'm gonna pause recording. And then if everybody can be back here at 7:45, then we'll get started. Okay, so we're back from our break now, and we're gonna go back to the material. So slack techniques, but first positional releases actually, because I still want to show you the first thing that you would do for that. Oh shit, I woke up and I can't move. Neck pain. So we're gonna head over to the couch. And hopefully, is it really that dark in the couch? No, it's just my phone is being my thing is being weird. Okay, so I'm on a couch. I'm sitting on a couch. And the couch is kind of big for me, so I'm gonna sit cross-legged on it. Whenever possible, trying to sit with your feet flat on a surface is gonna be better. But if you're kind of short like I am, most important thing of all is to be able to have a back on the couch, something that's puts your shoulder and your neck at 90 degrees or greater, so you can see that angle that I have. And actually, let me do it under the light. So I'll sit over here like this. So you can see that angle, right? So say I woke up. Okay, I woke up. Oh shit, I'm in pain and I can't move. Like it hurts. I can barely move my head. Any direction I try to move my head is just excruciating pain. And I'm distracted by this. And I wish I had a muscle relaxant, but I can't tolerate them. Or I wish that, I could get high or something, but I can't because I can't, use cannabis or whatever. So the very first thing again, I've used ice. So say that I have put ice on here for 5 to 10 minutes and it's like numbed up. And I'm like, for me, this pain is in the 8-9 range. Like it almost feels like an emergency when I have this particular pinch in my neck. And I mean, that's why some people they go to the hospital when this happens. They go to the chiropractor the same day. They try to get a massage. They take a muscle relaxant. They take extra over-the-counter pain medication. Well, I'm not one of those people because I can't access a lot of those things, right? And it's not life-threatening if it is just the muscle spasm. So I put ice on it to try to get myself out of panic mode. Like your body panics when this happens. That's normal. It hurts. You're in spasm. Your spine is trying to protect itself for some reason, and the muscle's just mad at you. Okay, I'm numbed up now. I can move a little bit more into that range, and it's still really stiff, and it still hurts a lot. But I'm not almost screaming every time. Cool. So then you're ready for the next thing, which is a positional release. Positional release is what it says. You're using a position to release the muscle and to help like calm down that local ecosystem. You want to slide your opposite hand underneath your arm, and you want to lift your arm up. So this, if I were to let go, this should just drop. I don't want to use my muscles. I want to be able to sort of ragdoll it. right? I want to be able to control this with just one active set of muscles. I don't want to use my muscles. Now you may guard, and if anybody's gotten massage work done, you'll know what that's like. Like if your massage therapist picks up your arm and you sort of like reflexively resist it, that's fine. That's totally fine. What we don't want is you to be consciously helping your arm. So I'm going to come underneath, I'm going to grab it, and I'm going to move my body to the side. I'm going to lean into the back of the couch. I'm going to put my arm down, and I'm going to push it onto the couch like that, okay? That's what I'm going to do. And then I'm going to sit on the couch. Sorry, I moved my arm. But imagine that I just passively did it, okay? I'm going to tilt my ear to that shoulder. This is why the ice is important, because when you go to do this, it hurts way more, right? And you don't want to touch it, don't want to move, but not moving and not getting into position is counterintuitive to making it better faster. So that's why I personally like ice for that. And the reason why for this type of thing, we use ice first instead of heat is because the heat doesn't numb the pain. And in my personal experience, the heat has never, ever reduced my pain when it's that acute, when it's that sharp, when it's that inflamed. So you'd be in this position for a minute to 2 minutes. You're just going to relax into that position. So already it worked on me. My shoulders actually settled into the couch more. I felt my armpit drop. I don't know if you can see that. I think the light is is making it washed out. Okay, there's the breath. So with these techniques, sometimes your body will take a big deep breath. That's your autonomic nervous system coming into play. That's your parasympathetic nervous system engaging. That's what we want. When we have that oh shit pain, we can't move, it's in spasm, that's fight, flight, oh shit, alarm bells are going off. Your body's not happy. So we want to encourage it to calm down. And this is how we do that. So now that I have that, I'm going to lift my head up. Okay. I'm going to rest in this position for a moment. I'm not going to just start getting up. Your body is an animal, and we've just started to communicate to it that it's safer. So the last thing you want to do is any sudden movements. Okay, I've never had that happen. I just had another breath. I don't know why. I'm like, it's still working. So I'm going to take, it's still passive. I'm not going to move my arm. My arm is still, as far as I'm concerned, dead weight. I'm going to reach over. I'm going to slide underneath. I'm going to bend it towards me. And then I'm going to reach and I'm going to pull it down. You see how smooth that was? Now, when you go to pull it down, you might, if you're not used to doing it, you might reflex and might start moving your arm. That's fine. It gets better with practice, and it's not a competition. So now that that has happened, I'm going to let my arm just rest. It's in my lap. I'm not moving it. I'm not touching it. I'm just going to let it rest for a moment. Okay, so now I'm going to move. Okay. And once I've moved out of that position and now I'm more active, I'm going to test my shoulder. I'm going to move it a little bit. I'm going to see what my range of motion is for that. I'm going to test it just a little bit. Maybe I'll even roll my shoulder a little bit. I'm going to be careful. I'm going to be conservative with this movement. I'm going to see, oh, can I move my head more? Like, oh no, I'm still kind of stiff, but it is getting better. Okay, so what do you do after that? Right? And this is where we segue into the slack techniques that we can do starting at the top, which will address that problem, but will also address other problems further along down the line. So I'll show you. Using the same shoulder. Can everybody see the back of my shoulder okay? Okay. So there's your scapula, right? Here's the top of the trapezius, and here's the supraspinatus. And then also we have the superior angle of the scapula right here, where that muscle attaches and goes up here. Now, your dorsal scapular nerve comes out right about here. So we're going to lift up the tissue around it. We're going to take our two fingers. We're going to find the space above, just above the bone. It might feel tender here, it does on me. And we're going to use a little bit of pressure. It's not much. It's literally like this much pressure so that we can manipulate the skin. It's very light. I'm going to come up behind here. I'm going to press down and I'm going to pull up. I'll keep my head neutral, whatever neutral is for me. I don't need to be fighting my posture right now. I just need to have my arm. Either you can like support it on the desk while you're doing it. You can have it in your lap. You can have it straight down. What we're looking for is just that we're holding this anchor on our skin. Okay, I took my breath, so I'm going to slide out with respect, like that. And I'm going to wait a moment before I move. Just like that. Okay. Now, the other area to do when we have that, oh shit, I can't move. I feel like I'm caught in a snare. We're going to find our clavicle. And I'll revisit these techniques during questions and answers if we need more. But we're going to find a clavicle. Okay, so there's a triangle that's made by that. And right here is a spongy. It's spongy. It's more spongy and feels more fluid-like than below your clavicle into muscle tissue. And then if you were to go onto your SCM, that quality of tissue is similar to the quality of tissue of your pec. So you want to be right here where this neurovascular bundle is, where you can contact that neural fascia. So I'm going to find it. I'm going to press down a little bit and I'm going to scoop up. I like this one because if I'm having pain in my hand or pain coming out of my armpit or my thoracic outlet symptoms are flared up, this helps. We hold it for about a minute or so. Okay, I'm gonna slide out because I had my breath. Notice how I slide out. I slide out the whole movement that I made. I basically put the car in reverse and then I come off of it. Okay, I'm gonna move my shoulder. I do feel more free and open. So I'm gonna feel that. I'm gonna feel that new space there. Turn my head towards it, turn my head away from it. So that's two of the areas that connect the neck to the shoulder. Let's practice this one on the other side. So you can see the clavicle, right? You see that triangle made by the upper trap and the neck. right there. On most people, it's right here. Now I'm gonna come in like that. Put the car in reverse, slide out with respect. There we go. Okay. Next one. See your earlobe? Right here. If you feel with your fingertips, just kind of go across a little bit. You can feel that there is a little bit of a split between muscles. Like right here, it's a little bit behind the ear. But you see where your sternocleidomastoid is attaching up here. So if you find that, you turn your head where you're feeling this, you can feel this muscle attachment engage. You're going to be kind of behind it, but you're going to use the opposite hand. It might seem intuitive to do it this way, but you don't want to use the side that you're trying to treat. So I'm going to go behind that. And I'm going to just lift up. Like that. And like that feels much better. Except for now, my trigeminal nerve is like, wait, what about me? You're doing all that stuff and I'm bothered. It's the ring light, I tell you. So let's find it again on this side. And we're just going to come up and lift up. And then slide out. That one in particular is like cervical plexus, and you're getting close to trigeminal nerve. So like my cheek just tingled a little, and I actually feel like my jaw loosened up as a result. But my shoulders also feel better, and my neck feels looser. So those are the 3 points where the neck and the shoulder meet. The next techniques are at or around the armpit. And I hope that you'll be curious to try them. They might look a little funny, they might feel a little funny, but I promise you, armpit is the key to unlock the shoulder. I am big in the armpits. Ever since I was in clinical practice in massage school, I was all about the armpit. And I let me just show you what I'm talking about. Okay. So we have armpits, right? You have your triceps that attach back here where radial nerve comes out. You have biceps and you have pec minor. And then in between the triceps and the biceps, you have a groove here where your blood vessels and nerves come out, travel, split at the elbow, and go into the hand. And they have to go through the carpal tunnel to do that as well. So it's a really important place, especially because here we have the clavicle, and at that this particular spongy stuff, that's the start of the nerve branches as they make their way underneath the clavicle, underneath pec minor and pec major, and then they go into the arm. So, this is a relatively easy spot to find. And then the next spongy spot is in the armpit. So I'm gonna actually put gloves on because I'm sweaty. You do not have to do this, but I will. I'm having one of those sensory days where I just actually don't really want to touch it without gloves. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna do my bad side. All right. Okay, so here's the armpit. And you have this section. And then if you feel in here, your lymph nodes are in here, which the armpit will be an important place for our crash course for lymphatic for the upper body as well. But just go in there and feel the quality and remember what this feels like. There's a spot there that feels almost similar to that spot. So there are a few different things that we can do here. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to find our pec. Go flex. So find our pec that attaches up here. And you can see what I'm doing with my fingers. I'm finding the back side of the muscle. So I'm coming in like that. I'm coming in like this, and I'm scooping in behind the muscle, as close to behind the muscle belly as I can. Okay, the reason why I'm trying to stay close to the muscle belly is because I don't want to actually touch or pinch the artery or the nerves. So that's why it's important to find the edge of that muscle and then curl up behind it, cozy up to that pec minor, okay? So this is what it looks like if I'm just doing it. See how I just came in and I'm scooping up at the same time? You can see how my fingers have bulged out my pec here. I'm gonna drop my shoulder. So now I'm sandwiched in. It'll feel tight. Even if you can just get 2 fingers there, that's fine. I've got 4. And my fourth one feels like it's being pinched, but that's okay. And there's my breath. I also feel a little bit of contact on my serratus anterior, which is your punch the face muscle. And that muscle is also a driver of hand and arm pain because it has a referral pattern. And that can get pretty irritated too, especially when we sleep on our sides and our shoulders roll forward. If we twist our spine at night, it can cause all sorts of problems. So, yeah. There's my second breath. I'm just gonna slowly come out like that. Oh. So 2 things that I notice when I do this. My wrist hurts now, but it's not bad. It's just a little bit of nerve signaling. It tells me that I have more work to do at the end of my arm, my hand, the distal end. I also feel much more open. I feel more relaxed. So I'm going to move my shoulder, and yes, I feel better. I feel like the compression that I was feeling is gone. But I do have some transient brachial plexus irritation. And usually when we work on one spot like this and another spot down the line or up the chain kind of lights up, we don't think of that as we're harming ourselves in this work, because this discomfort actually is now starting to go away. But it's just signaling of the nerve. And nerves, we feel them all the time, but there's certain like versions of the language or dialects that are really loud and they seem kind of scary, or it seems like something mechanically is wrong, when it could just be a localized superficial entrapment. Or maybe we just irritated a little bit with the move that we did, but as long as the irritation starts to drop, and we can feel this irritation when we engage them too. So if we're highly sensitive, what may occur when we do a move is it'll climb up and then it'll plateau. And then it'll start to drop. And maybe at that point you have your parasympathetic and autonomic engagement where you have like a breath, or you feel lighter, or your mood feels boosted, or you just feel like you have a little more energy. That's a good sign. When it comes up and it keeps going up and it keeps going up and it never starts to plateau or drop, you might be touching the nerve directly and you may be pushing on it. In which case you want to like reset your move, try again, do something else and come back to it later. When it climbs up and it plateaus, but it continues to plateau and there's no change other than it's just staying steady. Two things. You might need a little longer period of time. That's okay. Everybody is different. I respond very quickly to this because I've been doing this for almost 10 years now. You're not me. Just stick with it. Maybe your response time for it will get faster over time. Or it's not ready to shift yet. So sometimes I like to think of this as kind of like one of those wooden block puzzles. And some of the pieces are loose, but you haven't found the first thing to pull out so that you can pull the next piece out, or like a sliding puzzle. That just means that you have to go to a different spot, try a different move, and then come back to it. Or wait a little bit and then try again. So at this point, my hand is actually starting to feel a lot better. And remember, I said that I had some transient nerve signaling through here. I also scratched my hand earlier, right when we started. So I'm actually starting to feel the sting of that. So the next thing that we would do in the armpit, now that I've given myself a little bit of a rest since I caused some irritation, or my wrist has just been feeling cranky and I didn't realize it until we started actually addressing the problem. I'm going to go in for the second thing with the armpit. I'm going to do it with this hand. So right here is our serratus anterior and the edge of our latissimus dorsi, which also attaches up here. And I'm going to put my hand right up against my ribs into the tissue, and I'm going to scoop up. And I'm going to drop my hand. Now this is tender. Serratus anterior doesn't really like to be touched. A lot of people carry a lot of tension and stress in their ribs. And just the contact here is just, wow. I mean, it's not super painful or anything, but I definitely noticed that the side that I sleep on doesn't like it. So you can see how I have my hand. Okay, so I had a shoulder drop. I don't know if anybody saw that, but my shoulder dropped and it's more relaxed now. And I have my breath, so I'm going to let go. I'm going to slide out. And that does feel better. It does. So that's two of the armpit things. We did behind the pec where we come in like that. And we drop it down. And so now when I go in, I don't feel any tenderness or irritation at all. Like it feels like the muscles actually like released. And then we did this one where we come into the side and we lift up in towards the armpit and we drop our arm down. Okay. The next one, and this works for people who have breasts, but essentially you're gonna reach down towards here. And it's kind of like the first one that we did, except we're gonna just kind of like pull it towards the midline. I'm not in the muscle exactly, I'm on the edge. Well, I'm not behind it. I mean, I didn't curl behind it and then like pull the pec that way. I'm basically mostly gathering tissue. So you see how I've grabbed that upper chest? And this is the pec. Like if I go and flex, you can see that pec flex. And I'm using my thumb to hold that tissue as well. And then you can also, if you want more, you can. So not only do we pull it this way, but we can also do that as another scoop. Oh, that feels great. And then I just spread out my hand and then I move away. So that's how you would do 3 things for your armpit. So we did 3 things, 3 points for the shoulder, and then we did 3 points for the armpit. So moving on to elbow. The next place that you can have localized entrapments or just irritation. Okay, so for the elbow, you see the line of the elbow? Kind of, you can use the lines as a guide, right? And you can do this sitting, standing, whatever. I'm just trying to show it on the screen, but this is the elbow. I'm gonna take my hand. Okay, so before I do this, like I'll show you the position of my fingers. Like that. Oh, I can't turn that way, but essentially like that. Okay. Spongy on either side. And I'm just going to bloop like that. Just going to gently lift up the skin and bring it towards the midline. I'm not trying to force it. It's very gentle. And the pressure is not very deep. So my hand is responding to this. Now, not everybody will do this, but some of us are a little more sensitive and spastic with this kind of stuff than others. But I feel like, oh, look at that. My hand just relaxed. But now, I'm going to come out of it. I'm not going to get lost in the weird stuff my body's doing. But I feel like I even have a little bit better circulation in my fingers now. They were kind of cold, especially my first 2 fingers have more warmth. My the nerves innervated by my ulnar nerve are cold, are still colder, but the ones that are innervated by median and radial nerve are the first 3 here are actually feeling normal. So that's pretty cool. I felt some of the transient irritation that I was having in the back of my hand here is gone. And I feel looser. Like I don't feel like I need to crack my wrist anymore. And I feel like my hand isn't as stiff anymore. Like it's moving more fluidly now. So that's the elbow one. Okay. Now for wrist, again, there's the line. So in the anatomy of your hand and your wrist, there's this retinaculum. It's like a tape of connective tissue that anchors down your tendons. So there's two things or three things that we can do here for the wrist. And the first one is a positional release. I can come underneath my hand, underneath my knuckles. I can make a passive fist, not tight, and then I can lift up my hand like that. And I'm relaxed into it. So if we drop, or not drop, if we let go of our hand, it'll drop. And as a positional release, we hold it. So to answer your question real quick, because I just saw it, that positional release on the couch should help it. And then doing any nerve slacks around your neck or your armpit will also work for the deltoid. If there's a specific issue with that deltoid, then that's something that I could coach you on, or maybe when you come to a self-care hangout, we can talk about it. But there's quite a bit of overlap between techniques. So if one technique can like address multiple muscles, and it's better to think in terms of region than muscles for this kind of work, just because that's how the work is. It's more of a nerve regional thing as opposed to a hyper-specific thing. Okay, so I'm gonna put my hand down because I had my breath, and I'm going to open my hand. And I'm going to let it rest. Okay, I'm going to move it. And that feels better. I feel like that tension at the bottom of my thumb has just gone away. I still have a little bit of it, but it's way better. Like I feel like I have better range of motion with my thumb now than I did before. I didn't show you range of motion before, but to do this is a big deal for me because it's actually hard for me to do. So that increased my range of motion and reduced tension. The next one, we're going to take the retinaculum, or intend to bring the line together. So we're going to like squeeze this together. And we're going to hold. Now you can do this just by itself. But what you can also do is you can thread your tendons. So while you have that, you can gently play air guitar. Isolate each individual one if you want. You can just do a fist like that. Bring it down. Wow. I'll be like, the heaviness is out of my hand. It feels a lot better, except for this part. But my work doesn't work for wounds. And then let's check the chat. So yeah, if your deltoids are still stiff and you've done that, I mean, muscles will do that. You might need to do the work a little more. You might need to do some other techniques. When muscles are being worked out, so I don't know if you've been exercising or not, but when they've been like being worked a lot, you've been weightlifting on them, they go through micro tearing, which makes them grow bigger. And so that kind of stuff, when our muscles are stiff and sore, that could be a muscle strain and more of like an acute, like micro injury. And in which case, I would throw heat at it. A heat is great for loosening up stiff muscles from delayed onset muscle soreness or from working out. There could be other reasons why you're sore in the deltoid area or stiff in this case. It just like honestly for me to like know the root cause of it, I would have to like do a coaching session or I would need to assess it for myself and it might need actual massage. So you might need to actually go in and knead it. You can use a Theragun on it. You can put heat on it. You can even do some of your own percussion on it, that kind of stuff. I mean, that's kind of moving away from the nerve stuff, but I hope that helps. So, with the hand and the arm being such a really intense place to have pain, there could be numerous places where pain shows up. Your activities of daily living can make it more acute or make it worse, or you may have a chronic illness like hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, where things are going to be chronically tight or stiff or irritated. It's just sort of like a puzzle to figure out which of the techniques work for you and how do you apply them into your daily living. The neck is such a big piece too, which is why we spent some time on the neck, because not only is your neck, it borders the shoulder, but all the nerves and muscles, the muscles that are controlled by those nerves, originate from the neck. Like the nerves, the brachial plexus is housed right in here. So when I think of like a whole complete protocol for dealing with neck and shoulder pain, I'm including the hands and the arms. A lot of people only focus on one specific region, and in some cases that's appropriate, but I think that entire upper body region, and actually conclude the face and the jaw with that, is so important just because when we look at that nerve anatomy and what is happening with the muscles and how we're using our bodies, a lot of us are on computers all day long. And some of us are doing a lot of like overhead lifting with squats and things like that. And it closes down and irritates these areas, or it can. I don't know anybody that works out that doesn't have some kind of soreness or pain, or that hasn't had some kind of shoulder injury. Um, you can't convince me that there are athletes out there that have a perfect performance. I don't think it exists. So that all being said, it looks like we're ahead of time. So does anybody have any questions or answers, or sorry, any questions, or want me to go over something again? Because now would be the time to do that.
Yes, I got a question about the two armpit exercises we did, the first one and the second one. So when you grab the pack, um, what happened for me is that the section under in my arm released, but then a section just slightly below stayed like stiff. So I had to release and then find the spot behind the pec and grab it again twice in two spots. So is that something that you would expect to happen? And the same thing happened for serratus anterior. I had to find two spots.
It's your body. Your body is going to respond how it responds. It doesn't mean anything per se.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're not me. I respond pretty quickly to this stuff, but I'm also not like maybe working out or doing any of the stuff that you might be doing. So it's really subjective. Like the way that you receive the work and the way that you feel it can be different from everyone else. There's no actual normal. We just look at, are you getting results? And then how do you get those results? If you have to do it 2 or 3 times to get them, then that's completely fine. That's reasonable. If you try to get the results, but your pain starts to climb up and up and up and up, like I explained earlier, and it doesn't go down, then maybe you're on a nerve or something. But if you're doing the technique correctly and you are responding positively, even if it's just a little bit, then that's I think that's fine if you want to continue to play around with it and learn your body and explore. That would be the best way to figure out what kind of routine or how you do your technique, because that's what massage is. I mean, we learn techniques in massage. And I could go to 5 massage therapists and they all apply the technique slightly differently. They've all got different pressure, they've got different sized hands, they have a different way that they perceive my body. I have never had a massage therapist do technique to me even like 100%. And I'm sure people here who have received work from me, like when I go into your armpit, it's pretty similar, but I'm sure it feels slightly different every time just because of the nature of what our bodies are doing at the time or what we've been going through, localized stress in the body, etc. So when you do it to yourself, it makes sense that it would not be the same as how someone else would do it, or it may not even be the same every time that you do it to yourself.
I guess I was under the impression that there was only one right spot, and apparently there might not be.
No, there's modifications like let me get a glove. A lot of the like several of the techniques have modifications. Um, but if you're somebody with large pecs, you're gonna have a lot more muscle to work with, a lot more fascia to work with. But like here's my pec, right? I could actually come in like this at the bottom, and that's serratus anterior territory, and I can grab it just like this and do that with 2 fingers. I can be more precise. I could come up like I did before, like this, and just do that. And I don't even have to grab it. For example, I could come up to the very top right here, and I can get way behind that if it allows me to, and then I can grab it like this and hold it just like that. The way that I showed was a more broad way that didn't require a lot of grip strength or a lot of precision, so that it was more general for everyone. But there are things that you can do, and if anybody's interested in modifications, I can do one-to-one coaching with you, and I can show you more techniques. We can modify them and we can explore how they feel for you or what challenges you're facing. Okay, so looking at the chat. Okay, so yeah, for the dorsal scapular nerve, yeah, basically you're just reaching behind your shoulder, and you don't have to be able to reach all the way to the border of the spine of your scapula. So this bone here, this is the spine of your scapula. What we just have to do is we just need to get our finger. You could even do it here. So whatever's comfortable, whatever range that you have, this may not be a accessible technique for everyone, and there are modifications. But I think all the ones that I know do require you to be able to bring your opposite arm over your shoulder. So we're gonna come in with our 2 or 3 fingers, and we're just gonna push down a little bit, and we're gonna scoop up. That's what it looks like while our arm is relaxed. So there's our breath again. And then I'm just going to bring it back to the start position, and I'm going to take my hand away. Yeah, I hope that was helpful. I like the closed captions. It's like, so there's that birth again. Any other questions or things that I could walk back through? Before I get into my like end of class speech and then let you all go.
Yeah, can you walk us through again the one on the neck behind the ear? Because I'm some days that whole side of the neck is so tight that it's very hard to find that when you say turn your neck and then
Yeah,
find the empty spot, that empty spot is not empty when the whole side of the neck is tight.
yeah.
So
Okay,
can you
yeah,
walk us through?
everybody's anatomy is a little bit different too. So if you can't find it, there are other things that you can do. Like you could use um decompression of your neck to achieve similar results. So you could use a cervical roll for that, McKinsey cervical roll. You don't have to rely on these, like if they don't work for you and you're so stiff or your muscles are so irritated, um, trying a different approach or a different modality might be better for you in that case. But here's how to find it again. So where take your finger pads and roll over, and there's a spot to sink into that's behind the SCM. So here I'm grabbing my SCM, and this finger is in that spot. You could also try to lift up your SCM, and this was in my neck class. So if you got the material from the neck class, you could review that one. But if you grab this and lift it up, that might be the first thing that you do since you can't get behind it or in the groove behind it. And slide out like that. And I'll that loosened up my jaw. Um, but yeah, it's right there. It's like I use this line like this way on my neck, but I don't think that's helpful. So it's really like right here. And I'm doing same side, but you want to do opposite because you don't want to use the active side or the side that you're trying to treat. Um, so it's right there, and I'm just going to lift up and come out like that. So you can even see the red marks where I have my fingers. So yeah, I think saying that it's like right in line with the earlobe might not be accurate. So I'll work on that communication, but let's up back here.
And you keep your chin straight when you lift it up, or do you keep it turned away to the opposite side?
Well, in order for me to reach it, I kind of have to turn my head because I can't reach it. It's too much strain on my elbow. So whatever works for you. You're not trying to force
Oh,
a posture and you're not trying to like make your neck do a certain thing while you're doing it because that's kind of counterintuitive to the process. So I would just do what is comfortable to be able to reach it and then lift it up. Like don't worry about fighting against your posture or having perfect posture for these because then your body's doing too many things at once and it's not going to have optimal results. Okay, well, I think unless there's anything else, I will go into the end of class speech and I'll get this recording ready to send out. How does that sound? Okay, so thanks for coming to the class. Really appreciate it. Every time I teach these, I actually learn something new, either about the process or about the people I'm working with, or I make up a new technique on the spot, which actually a couple of times that happened today. So that was fun. So I really appreciate you all coming. Now, if you did find this class helpful, please tell people about it. I had so many class seats available for this class. This class wasn't even half full. And I think that this material can help make a positive impact on other people's lives. So I have several learning enthusiasts now on my Ko-Fi, and they, by committing every month, they get a class and they open up a free seat for someone else. I really appreciate my learning enthusiasts because of this. It helps me get that material out there so people can learn to take care of these things at home. I do my best to try to make this stuff as accessible as possible. So please help me find the people who could most benefit from my work. Please do not let me be your best kept secret. Word of mouth is the best way for people to learn about me. If you are willing to share your experiences, because when they know that you've been positively impacted by this and have had some results or some experience with me, they are more likely to interact as opposed to just wondering if I'm legitimate or not. So I would really appreciate that. And then our next class, which is the class that is open right now. So we just closed registration for part one, head, face, neck, and jaw, or head, face, and neck. But we do have registration open for part two of my headache migraine protocol for intraoral, jaw, and tongue. These are the techniques that a lot of people find are extremely beneficial to them and help with a lot of pain and tension by putting on gloves and going inside their mouth. They're able to really loosen up that really tense area back there. I currently only have one person signed up for that class. So if you've not taken it yet, please consider coming to it. It's on Saturday the 25th, starting at 2:30 in the afternoon, Pacific Standard Time. I will not have my headache migraine protocol classes again until September when it becomes a 4-hour workshop where I combined both classes with an hour break for lunch. So please let people know. I think it's great. And I'm sure we're all going to be having a lot of headaches for the next 4 years. So I would love to get this out to as many people as possible. In fact, teaching the headache, migraine, neck stuff that I do, I started early with in my career, and is a passion of mine. And a lot of people just are absolutely amazed at how beneficial learning how to do it themselves is, and then they don't have to come into my office and take their mask off. They can do it at home where they know their air is clean and they don't have to worry about anything. So thank you all again for coming. I will get this recording out. I'll get the list of self-care links out to you in the next couple of days or so. I'm going to be kind of busy. I've got a bunch of stuff to do, but I will get it out to you soon. And yeah, I really appreciate you guys coming. I'll stick around for a couple more minutes if people want to chat. But other than that, I guess class is dismissed.